For 17 years, the marshes along Ocean Parkway held their silence. A stretch of Long Island highway, unremarkable on any map, invisible to most commuters. But beneath the brush and burlap, a serial killer had carefully buried his work. 10 victims, different names, different faces, the same calculated hand. This is the story of how a discarded pizza crust unraveled it all. It began not with the discovery of a killer, but with the disappearance of a woman named Shannan Gilbert. In May 2010, a 24-year-old woman vanished after a frantic 911 call in Oak Beach, Long Island. The call lasted 22 minutes. She sounded terrified, screaming that someone was trying to kill her. Then the line went dead. When police searched for Shannan, they didn't find her. What they found instead was far worse. In December 2010, along a 4-mile stretch of Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach, investigators recovered the remains of 4 women, all of whom had advertised on Craigslist. They became known as the Gilgo Four: Melissa Barthélemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello. The search continued. By April 2011, 6 more sets of remains had been found. The timeline stretched back further than anyone had imagined. The earliest victim, Sandra Costilla, had been killed in 1993. 17 years, one predator, a coastline full of secrets. For over a decade, the case stalled. Leads faded. Witnesses went quiet. The investigation changed hands multiple times. Law enforcement had a profile, a local man, organized, methodical, intimately familiar with the geography. But a profile without a name is just a shadow. Then, in 2022, everything changed. A new police commissioner, Rodney Harrison, made the Gilgo Beach case a priority. New detectives, new technology, a fresh set of eyes on evidence that had been sitting in storage for 12 years. The cold case was about to get very warm. Exterior shot of a quiet suburban house. Architect's blueprints on a desk. Slowly push in. The first thread came from a witness statement that had been overlooked. A dark green, first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche had been spotted near the area where one victim was last seen. Investigators cross-referenced that description against vehicle registrations across Suffolk County. One name surfaced: Rex Heuermann, 60 years old, a Manhattan architect, married, 2 kids, a homeowner in Massapequa Park. 5 minutes from where the bodies were found. On paper, he was invisible, a professional, a commuter, a neighbor. But beneath that surface, investigators were about to find a man who had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Surveillance began immediately, quietly, methodically, the same patience the killer himself had used. Investigators pulled Heuermann's cell phone records. What they found was precise in its implication. His phone had pinged towers in the same locations as 3 of the 4 victims, in the hours before they disappeared. Contact, proximity, pattern. He had used burner phones during the killings, prepaid devices designed to leave no trace. But investigators cross-referenced the burner activity against his primary cell. Both devices had activated on the same towers, at the same times, in the same locations. The burner was his, and the digital trail went deeper. An email account linked to Heuermann had been used to search for news about the investigation. He had Googled the victims, their relatives. He had been monitoring the case from inside his own home for years. Cell data and search history placed him in the frame, but DNA sealed it. In early 2023, investigators conducted a covert operation. They retrieved a pizza crust Rex Heuermann had discarded on a Manhattan sidewalk. From that single piece of trash, they extracted a DNA profile and ran it against forensic samples that had been waiting in an evidence lab for over a decade. The match was critical. Hair recovered from burlap used to wrap. One of the victims carried a DNA profile consistent with Heuermann's. There was more. From bottles recovered in the trash outside his Massapequa Park home, investigators extracted a second DNA profile belonging to his wife. That profile matched hair found on or near 3 other victims. The same household, multiple crime scenes, a chain of biological evidence stretching from a Manhattan sidewalk to a Suffolk County marsh. Every bite has a story. Every trace tells the truth. On July 13th, 2023, Rex Heuermann was arrested outside his Manhattan office. He was charged with 6 counts of murder. He pleaded not guilty. Bail was denied. Over following months, new charges arrived. Jessica Taylor, Sandra Costia, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. The timeline kept expanding, each new charge reaching further back into decades he thought were buried. Then, on April 8, 2026, nearly 3 years after his arrest, Rex Heuermann stood before court and pleaded guilty to 7 murders. And in doing so, he admitted to an 8th. Sentencing is scheduled for June 17, 2026. The Gilgo Beach case is a masterclass in forensic patience. 17 years of killing.
The Gilgo Beach case is a masterclass in forensic patience.
What
17 years of killing.
Chase. It was a pizza crust, a cell tower ping, and investigators who refused to let the evidence sit still. Because every trace leaves a signature, and no matter how long it waits, the evidence always speaks. If this changed the way you see forensic investigation, drop your thoughts below. Subscribe to Savvy Crime, because this is only the beginning of more stories to come.